Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys we've got something pretty damn interesting to talk about that was stated during a Nintendo Dream Magazine interview with Tetsuya Nomura. Recently Nomura sat down with Nintendo to talk all things Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory for Nintendo Switch, but did end up stating a few different interesting points. The most interesting of which doesn't really have so much to do with Melody of Memory, but the future of Kingdom Hearts as a whole. Now before we get to that juicy slice, I thought I'd just read out a few other interesting things that were stated in this interview. The first question was, it's rare that Nomura's KH titles have debuted in Nintendo Dream Magazine. Nomura followed up by saying, I think we can meet again here sometime soon too. Now the interesting thing about this is it's pretty much alluding to the fact that there will be another interview with Nintendo Dream Magazine at some point in what seems to be, from what Nomura is saying right here, the near future. Possibly in regards to a new Switch title that Nomura is associated with. Now, I know automatically the first thing all of us are going to jump to is, oh shit, okay, well it's Nomura. Hopefully this is something Kingdom Hearts related. If we think back to an answer that Tetsuya Nomura gave in an interview last month to do with Melody of Memory, an interviewer actually asked Nomura if Square plan on bringing any of the older Kingdom Hearts titles to Nintendo Switch, as of course fans have been clamoring to get the HD remixes onto the system. Nomura has mentioned that Square have looked into bringing the HD remixes over to the Switch platform, but currently, as of right now, which is just the major keyword, currently they don't actually have any plans on doing so, which was a little bit of a buzzkill to read that info. So whatever this next meeting with the Nintendo Dream Magazine is going to be about, I don't think it will be on the subject of Kingdom Hearts and Switch, but rather a new Tetsuya Nomura title for Switch. And when we were talking about that initial information of no more Kingdom Hearts coming to Switch for the time being, we were throwing around the idea of possibly a Bouncer remaster or remake, maybe something new for Musashi Samurai, either a new installment or again a remaster, maybe something to do with Parasite Eve, but I think what is likely to happen here is a game that I know so many people have been waiting a damn long time for, and that has actually had a bit of traction moving in its space this year, and that is The World Ends With You. I would say what Nomura is referring to here is likely to be TWEWY 2. It's the choice that ultimately makes the most sense, considering that there have been TWEWY 2 leaks roaming around ever since 2017, suggesting the fact that this is something that Square Enix have been working on for a little while now. That and the space this year has been sort of flourishing a bit with The World Ends With You animation that was recently released, and The World Ends With You re-release for Nintendo Switch, releasing back in 2018, dubbed as Final Remix, goes to show that Square are still obviously focused on this IP. Also, with the additional ending that Final Remix introduces, it heavily implies that there is a sequel. It was also mentioned by Square that the more people show interest and actually purchase the Final Remix version of The World Ends With You, the bigger the chance that we'll see this series continue. So yeah, I think the stars are finally aligning for that of A World Ends With You too. We'll just have to stay patient and see. Next up, Nintendo Dream Mag asked a question that we've already received an answer to, and that is if Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory has a secret movie. Of course, Nomura did say no, as we already know, but he did mention you can consider the entire game to be a secret movie of sorts from start to finish. There's a lot to do in this game and it all has meaning, which in itself makes the game a bit of a secret. Cryptic as per usual, as it goes with Tetsuya Nomura, just blatantly saying that the entirety of the game is a secret movie of sorts. I can't help but wonder if this has got something to do with the overall length of the game. In the sense of cutscenes, we're probably not in for overly too many. This will be very short in volume, as it has been confirmed by Nomura, and as we do already know, to finish the game in the sense of the story side of things, including the gameplay on top of that too with cutscenes in the mix, it's only about a 10-hour experience. So I think what this may be pointing towards is, for the small amount of story content that we do get in Melody of Memory, maybe it might have the same sort of impact that that of a secret movie would have. I don't think it would be to the exact same degree, as the secret movies are always absolutely mind-boggling, and they always consist of many what the fuck moments, but I'm hoping that because the story volume here is so small in comparison to what we're usually used to, there is going to be a lot of good stuff compiled in. Alright, now let's talk about the most interesting segment of this interview. The question right here was, what kind of things can we look forward to for the Kingdom Hearts series from here on out? Nomura said, well, the Kingdom Hearts 3, 2.8, Unchained Key, and Union Cross original soundtrack will be out on the same day as Melody of Memory. There's also going to be a bonus CD that will have 2 Melody of Memory arrangement tracks. The Kingdom Hearts second memory, Ichiban Kuji Goods, will also be out in early November 2020. As for the Kingdom Hearts series, we hope to broaden our target audience. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is only the first part of what we have in store from here on out. Now obviously we do know that Square Enix have pretty big plans for that of the Kingdom Hearts series. As we already know, there are multiple different projects currently in development by multiple different development teams. From what we saw in the Kingdom Hearts 2020 trailer that released halfway throughout this year, the team also do have a sort of roadmap of sorts for the future of the series, or at least the second phase. As we can see, there are many unfilled slots for future Kingdom Hearts projects. But the biggest takeaway right here is that Square are hoping to broaden the target audience. This tells me that Square are potentially looking at trying out different styles of maybe gameplay with the Kingdom Hearts series going forward. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is without a doubt the most unique Kingdom Hearts gameplay experience that we've ever received. Previous to this, it was definitely Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories with the card-based battle system, but if you look at it, every single Kingdom Hearts game that is ever released, disregarding the mobile titles like we usually do here, have always, for the most part, retained the same gameplay formula, that being an action RPG. In fact, I can only think of really Kingdom Hearts Recoded that really sort of stepped out of the comfort zone a little bit with the Kingdom Hearts gameplay, with a lot of the worlds having their own quirky little gimmicky moments, specifically when looking towards Olympus Coliseum in that world, changing the game from an action RPG into an action turn-based game. It was quite interesting, but through and through, that game certainly still retained that Kingdom Hearts action RPG format. So what this comment sort of tells us is that for the future of Kingdom Hearts, there might actually be some Kingdom Hearts titles that stand out of their comfort zone and that host a different gameplay formula, not being that of an action RPG, but Square might be looking at trying out different gameplay genres with the Kingdom Hearts IP. Now, I'm totally on board with this, as I've actually been having a lot of fun with Melody of Memory and really cannot wait to try out the full game, though of course through and through the preferred Kingdom Hearts experience for myself personally, and I think probably most fans, that seems the reason why we're fans of the game, is of course the action RPG side of things. I mean, Kingdom Hearts absolutely nails this genre, so I definitely wouldn't want a case where we're having maybe half of the release games releasing as different genres and the other half just the traditional action RPG. I hope that there is still consistency with keeping Kingdom Hearts traditional, and maybe every so often a side title that we do receive will play out a little differently. That being said, I still definitely do want side titles to retain the OG Kingdom Hearts formula. The side titles that released between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 meant that Square Enix could still stick to that OG Kingdom Hearts action formula, but also experiment with other different mechanics in the gameplay too, which ultimately led us to the finalized concept of the combat systems that we find in KH3. So I think that it is still important that Square do make side titles with that experimental Kingdom Hearts action RPG stuff going on there. But yes, I guess this opens up the door to potentially seeing all sorts of other Kingdom Hearts games. For instance, maybe a shooter of sorts. Now I know what you're thinking, Disney wouldn't allow this, and yes, you're probably right. When it comes to like maybe a first-person shooter, I don't think Disney would be so on board, but seeing something more in the vein of a third-person shooter, you can imagine maybe like a Yuzura installment. When he whips out his gun, it goes into a sort of third-person shooter-esque gameplay format. Kingdom Cards, can you just imagine if this becomes a real thing? As well as the rumored Kingdom Hearts Disney Plus TV series too. This could also be what they mean by broadening the target audience, going into more of visual viewing media rather than interactive game media, something that Kingdom Hearts is still yet to do. Legitimately speaking though, what this really does give me hope for is to see that long-awaited and highly wanted Kingdom Hearts fighting game, a real true Kingdom Hearts Dissidia, what Dissidia was originally going to be. Before, of course, Disney told Square, no, actually, this is not happening. The project would later on become a Final Fantasy project to turn into a Final Fantasy fighting game, but the idea was originally Kingdom Hearts. So maybe now that Disney are definitely more sort of forthcoming with Kingdom Hearts, more willing to promote it, I think that they finally realized, especially with KH3, that Kingdom Hearts is a pretty big deal and is also quite profitable. Something like a Kingdom Hearts fighting game might not totally be out of the realm of possibility in our current day and age with where Disney are at with the Kingdom Hearts brand. Whatever the genre may be, it seems like Kingdom Hearts is pretty adaptable. From what we've seen so far with Melody of Memory, a rhythm-based game, Kingdom Hearts seems to be working out pretty well there. If you like and enjoy rhythm-based games, it still retains to that Kingdom Hearts feeling, and same with the experimental Chain of Memories, infusing action RPG into a card-based system. So long as Square don't venture off the beaten path all too often, still making the majority of releases action RPG, this could end up being pretty beneficial to the series, with it tapping into different genres over the course, means that it can reach out to wider audiences. But however fellas, that is all for today's news and information. Definitely really interesting to see that there is a chance where we might actually start to see some other types and styles of Kingdom Hearts games going forward. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. I would love to know. However dudes, I'm Cynical. Hopefully having a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.